Your top stories at 4 o'clock. Eskom implements stage 4 rolling blackouts, which will be in effect until 5 a.m. on Friday. Coalition talks continue as political parties look to form alliances to run the many hung municipalities. A very good afternoon to you. We're coming to you live from Auckland Park, Johannesburg. This is the final hour of SA Today with me, Unati Bagyashe. Well, you've heard it, Eskom load shedding again, stage 4. Now, we want to hear your comments this afternoon on your thoughts on Eskom implementing stage 4 load shedding for the rest of this week. Well, call us on 011-714-6841. Tell us how this is affecting you. Let's take you now to our top story. Now, stage 4 rolling blackouts are in effect around the country and will remain with us until 5 a.m. on Friday. Stage 2 load shedding will then be implemented until 5 a.m. on Saturday. Now, Eskom says this is because of an incident in Zambia that has affected what it calls the entire Southern Africa power pool, including imported power from Cahora Bassa in Mozambique. Earlier, Eskom said 12 generating units were expected to be brought back online this week, and this should help stabilize the grid amid continued load shedding. Some experts say each stage of load shedding costs the South African economy around R1 billion a day. Eskom spokesperson Sikonati Mantshantsha.
Eskom regrets to inform the public that due to the ongoing generation capacity shortages, stage 4 load shedding will be implemented from 1 o'clock this afternoon until Friday at 5 in the morning. Thereafter, stage 2 load shedding will continue as previously communicated until 5 a.m. on Saturday. While Eskom regrets the escalation in load shedding, it is necessary to ration the remaining emergency generation reserves, which have been extensively utilized this morning, as we are not getting the reduction in demand as expected from the implementation of stage 2 load shedding. It was anticipated that an additional 7 units would have returned to service by Monday, and this has not materialized. Further, a generation unit at Arnott Power Station tripped this morning, contributing to the shortages. We remind customers that load shedding is implemented as a last resort to maintain the stability of the power system, regardless of the stage of load shedding. Total breakdowns currently amount to 14,874 megawatts, while planned maintenance is 5,500 megawatts of capacity. Eskom would like to apologize for the inconvenience caused by the implementation of load shedding and requests the public to continue reducing the usage of electricity in order to help us through the constraints. Eskom will communicate promptly should there be any significant changes to the power system.
All right, we're now joined on the line by Professor Raymond Parsons from the Northwest University Business School. Professor, thank you so much for your time this afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon to you.
Prof, now we're told by various experts that around R1 billion a day is what Eskom is costing this economy during each stage of load shedding per day. Now, I spoke to a union leader saying that hundreds of thousands of jobs have been lost. Now, can the country actually afford this current state of play?
Well, obviously, it's clear that South Africa cannot afford, and that the sooner we can try and turn the situation around, the better. You will know, of course, that we've had load shedding since the 24th of January 2008, and you would have thought by now we would have got accustomed to it. But the fact is that there's a mounting economic toll being exacted from our economy as we continue with this particular situation. I think that the latest news from Eskom is really saying that it's bad news for our economy in terms both of output and jobs, because from a business point of view, there's the disruption of the existing businesses, especially small businesses, who really don't have the skills to be able to deal with it. Then you have those businesses closed down, but they cannot cope with it. And finally, you have those businesses that don't stand back their minds, opposition, growing at 5%, and the lights went out. Coincidentally, we're now growing at 5% again, and the lights are going up. So it's clear that this is a serious risk to our economic recovery.
Thank you so much, Prof, for that outlook. Unfortunately, your sound coming out very badly there. Professor Raymond Parsons from the Northwest University Business School. Now, interestingly, some of the questions that we would have liked to pose to him is that, on the other hand, what are the implications of a grid collapsing in South Africa? Is Eskom doing that? The various load shedding stages, which was stage 4 being the absolute last, to prevent that grid collapse. What are those implications? As we know, other countries have experienced similar outbreaks, including Argentina, including India. Now, we'll continue to take some of your calls on Eskom. You can just call us and talk to us about, just what is, how this load shedding has affected you. All right, let's continue here now. President of the Black Business Council, Elias Monache, weighed in on the rolling blackouts, and this is what he has to say.
One of the major problems that we are faced with, we cannot continue as business to continue taking a strain on Eskom incompetency and lack of preparing for maintenance. Secondly, businesses, they continue to suffer because of Eskom problems. Now, week in, week out, we have a problem in terms of load shedding, and it's difficult for businesses then to operate, let alone most of the business that they don't have deep pockets, they've closed down as a result of a lack of sustainable energy from Eskom's side. The third part of the problem is that in an event where we just on the recovery plan we are not even close to the recovery plan as a result of the pandemic, but we continue then to have a problem of the disruption from Eskom. And that put more severe constraints and pressure to the economy, because we cannot even talk about the recovery plan in the absence of a sustainable energy coming from Eskom. And I think these are some of the issues that government must move with speed in terms of dealing with this matter. If not, I can tell you now, most companies are going to close down. Most companies are going to lay off workers as a result of this major problem that we're faced with. And I think from the Black Business Council point of view, we want to have an agent meeting with both the Minister of Public Enterprise and Minister of Energy to deal with these matters once and for all, because we cannot continue week in, week out, where companies are facing a major problem, let alone the small businesses and the big ones. They have a major problem. Whether you run a steel mill plant, you run a foundry, run a plastic converters, you run a small restaurant, you run your own car wash, you cannot basically then provide to our customers with any services. And that's a major problem. We just came from another week of load shedding, and we are going again for another week of load shedding.
Mr. Monache, let me just jump in there quickly and ask you the question. You touched on the issue of speed, that government needs to really sort this matter out with urgency. We're always told about, renewable energy and, requests for bidders and all the rest of it. Do you think that these processes have been too slow?
No, those processes are too slow. The problem with Eskom is the maintenance schedule. If Eskom, for the past 5-10 years, they didn't have any maintenance plan in place, it's a major problem, and they continue to, week in, week out, they're raising issues on excuses to say, we have a problem with the maintenance, we have a problem with the boilers, we have a problem with, if it's not a boiler, it's something else. If it's not something else, it's the cold. If it's cold, it's not wet, it's the rain. So it's a multiple facet issue that we're dealing with, and this is a sheer incompetency of Eskom management. And surely, if it means the CEO must basically then vacate his position, that must be the case.
All right, the Defend Our Democracy campaign has launched the concept of Anti-Corruption Week today. The event will detail why Anti-Corruption Week is being held and the need for public activism to ensure accountability, particularly in relation to local government oversight. For more now, we are joined by Reverend Mos Ntla, who is one of the conveners of the Defend Our Democracy campaign. Welcome to you, Reverend Mos Ntla. Please, can you explain to us just how will this week really focus on anti-corruption, and is a week really enough?
Thank you for having me, and good afternoon to your listeners. Yeah, you are correct. The week is not enough. It ought to be a state of emergency, this corruption issue that continues throughout the year until we've turned the corner on this issue. But we can't, at this point, afford to do that. So we're starting at least with a week to highlight the issue. So the week is merely a symbolic way, a call to action that says that as a society, as a country, we are at dire straits, that corruption is seemingly going to suffocate us unless we take drastic action to turn this tide. And the week is intended to focus on all of our society, every sector of our society, whether it's a civil society, it's faith communities, ordinary South Africans who are not organized, or those that are organized in the labor movement, in business, even in government. We know that there are people within the state machinery that are doing their best to do what is right and to blow the whistle. And we've heard how people have been singled out and even mad at for blowing the whistle on society. And we are saying that that struggle cannot be only waged by those who are whistleblowers, as we've seen in recent times with Babita Jokuran. And so I think if all of us South Africans wake up to this call and do what we can, each one of us, the chances of defeating corruption will become that much greater.
How does one then, have a conversation that says this is how you should hold governments accountable, this is how you should hold those in power accountable, yet the system doesn't protect you? I mean, you've mentioned whistleblowers. Our whistleblowers, we know, in this country are not being protected. International groups have also called out South Africa for not protecting whistleblowers enough. Where then do we start having this conversation of people speaking out about corruption, which, as you've said, is something that South Africans experience on a daily basis?
Correct. I think as Defend Our Democracy campaign, we see this as primarily the task of ordinary South Africans. We make the statement that our democracy, if left in the hands of those who are power holders, whether they're politicians or those who are in business, if all of these elites, whether in the political sense or business sense or any sense, even religious sense, if everything depended on them, then we will not defeat those kinds of corruptions that benefit those people. And the call is really to say it should not depend on those who are in power to decide the fate of whistleblowers. So if all of us blew the whistle every time we saw something wrong, if every one of us committed to be anti-corruption, whether it's in your family or even among your friends, all of these things require that all of us as South Africans stand together. We say that the last line of defense, if everything else fails, if Parliament fails, if the state fails, then this democracy will be defended by ordinary people who believe enough in it to defend it. And so we have failed as a democracy if it continues to depend on what those we have elected on the 1st of November recently in local government election. If it depended altogether on them, then I think we are not a democracy. We are somewhat of a dictatorship. But it should always be the case that people should be very influential stakeholders in the shape of the democracy they have.
All right, Reverend Masentla, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Very, very powerful words here. Of course, the Defend Our Democracy campaign has launched the concept of Anti-Corruption Week today. Now, in a very short time, we'll be taking you to Soweto, where the ANC is hosting its thank you event. Let's listen in to the ANC president speaking now.